Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, folks, and welcome. This is the McDermott Report. I'm Dan McDermott. We are live from Lynchburg, Virginia, every night at 8 o'clock. If you'd like to give us a call, you're more than welcome to do so. We'd love to hear from you. Our number is 818-688-6625. Please do give us a call. Coming up on the show tonight, my first guest is Emily Williams. She's a senior political writer for the Lynchburg Times. Also joining us is Beth Waller. Beth is a good friend of mine. Both Emily and Beth are. Beth is a top real estate agent in Northern Virginia. She's humble, so she'll beg to differ, but she is. Here are some of the stories we'll be talking about tonight. A federal appeals court in Cincinnati upholds the individual mandate provision of the Obama health care law. The Supreme Court strikes down Arizona's Clean Elections Act. We'll analyze that a bit. Pending home sales turn around in May. We'll get analysis from Beth Waller. Myspace finally has a buyer for pennies on the dollar. You may be judged and get perks based on how many Twitter followers you have, believe it or not. We'll look at that. The Swiss are planning a personal newspaper that is printed and mailed just to you. Lady Gaga fires back against a lawsuit accusing her of scamming people with her charity. And my favorite story, JetBlue flights in New York were delayed because of turtles on the runway. So we've got quite a show. First up, let's talk about the pending home sales with Beth. I'm not sure how long she's going to be able to be here with us, but Beth, I think you got I emailed you the numbers today, and I know you stay on top of this. Now you're mainly in Front Royal, Warren County, but this is, I guess, it's good news for homeowners, and the details are basically that pending home sales rose strongly in May, with all regions experiencing gains from a year ago, pointing to higher housing activity in the second half of the year, according to the National Association of Realtors. The pending home sales index, a forward-looking indicator based on contract signings, rose 8.2% to 88.8 in May from an upwardly revised 82 in April. The data reflects contracts but not closings, which normally occur with a lag time of 1 or 2 months. So Beth, why don't you tell us what this means? I know that obviously a contract is not a closing, but it's a good sign. So give me some input there.
That is right, Dan, and thanks. It's a pleasure to be talking with you this evening with some exciting news and some positive news about the real estate market. I'm, of course, a realtor in Warren County in Front Royal, Virginia, a suburb of Washington, D.C., about 60 miles west of the Northern Virginia area. But we in our little community here, as well as, nationwide, have experienced certainly an increase in activity. I've been working 12-hour days here lately. My friends and I are wondering if there's a full moon or something. I do concur with the increased activity that the national statistics convey, and actually ran some numbers when you invited me on this afternoon. And compared to last May, in my small town here in Warren County, we went under contract 43 homes last May, and this May, 58 homes were under contract in May. Now, as you pointed out, a contract is not a closing, and unfortunately the closings, at least locally in Warren County, the closings were down in May as opposed to last May. The actual closings that occurred this May were 41 in Warren County, and last May were 57 in May of 2010. So that's a significant 28% drop there in closings. But what's very interesting and what falls in line with the trend nationwide is that the contracts, the homes that have gone under contract, increased by almost the same amount. So we're over a 25% increase in May in homes that went under contract, which is just a very encouraging sign. I personally sold 47 properties last year, and to date have closed 22 and have another 24 under contract. So I think that certainly indicates a trend. If I do nothing from here on out and these contracts go to closing, I will have sold as many as I did the entire year last year. So I think that certainly points to increased market activity. Unfortunately, we haven't seen the prices climb like we'd like to, but everything is a cycle in real estate. And as the activity increases, as the number of homes going under contract increase and closing increase, the supply and demand factor will take effect, and certainly prices will improve. Of course, we're all nervous about another round of pending foreclosures with these high interest rate loans coming due, et cetera. But we're very hopeful that the market is going to take a turn for the better. And I think the numbers certainly do indicate that that is the case.
Okay, Beth. Well, Ron Paul was in the Republican debate recently, one of the two, and he said that home prices are still too high. He said that the system is artificially inflating them because they're trying to postpone the inevitable because they doubled over 5 years in the years when you probably made a lot of money. But I can tell you, Beth is a great person. She's very active in the community, and she's a great real estate agent. I think Weichert has, not to brag on her, but I will since she won't. I think Weichert has probably thousands of realtors, and I think she got number one in the whole outfit, or at least in Northern Virginia. So she really knows what she's talking about. She's very popular in the area. She's a good person. You're welcome. Is Ron Paul correct? Are prices artificially being kept propped up?
Well, I do believe that, this time last year, and one reason why the numbers look so horrifying, the actually closed sales in May of this year versus last year, is because remember that first-time home buyers, that tax credit that was going on this time last year. So we had that was certainly artificial. It was like a shot in the wound here, trying to fuel buyers to step up to the plate and buy thanks to the government incentives. This spring, however, what's encouraging is that buyers are coming up to the plate without those sort of incentives. Of course, there are tons of other incentives. We've got low interest rate, historically low interest rates. We've got programs where I have a lot of buyers even engaged in 100% financing. There's several 100% financing opportunities locally where people are closing and not bringing anything to the table. In fact, getting their earnest money deposit back. A lot of people don't realize that there are these opportunities out there. Of course, there are the conventional 20% downs, but there are also 3.5% downs and 100% financing. So the opportunities for buyers and first-time home buyers to get in the market are just enormous. You start to think and you get this encouraging news and then something happens, the media or something, a scare, and people start to get nervous again and back down. But traditionally in my career, my 9-year career, May and June have been the best months to sell a home and to get a home under contract, and that has proven correct. Just since Saturday evening, I've received and will be ratifying before the end of the week 6 contracts on 6 of my listings. So a couple of them were actually multiple contracts on listings where my sellers got to choose between several offers. So that's a very encouraging sign that the buyers are re-entering the marketplace. I think the number one key and the determining factor if Ron Paul is correct is what's going to happen with these pending foreclosures in the pipeline and the short sales. And the people who wake up in the morning one day and think, you know what, I owe 50, 60, 70, 80, 100,000 more on my house than it's worth, and I'm tired of paying that mortgage that's so high, I'm going to walk away. Or I'm going to try to short sale. A short sale is when a homeowner wants to sell their home, but yet they owe more than what the market value is. So in order to commence with that sale, you have to get approval from the bank to take a lower amount. The crazy part is the bank won't tell you what they'll take until after you list the property, get a contract, and submit it. Then 2 months later, the bank says, oh, okay, we'll take that amount. Or no, we want $5,000 more. Or no, we want $60,000 more. I firmly believe that the key to our housing market recovery is to embrace this short sale market where the people that are literally prisoners in their home, they have a mortgage of $300,000. Their home is worth $250,000, $225,000. They'd like to move to be closer to family. They perhaps have lost their job and can't afford the mortgage payment. They're stuck in these homes, literally prisoners of their mortgage. And a lot of times it wasn't any of their own doing. Of course, sometimes there are people that got the home equity loan and paid off their car and got a boat and put a pool in, and now they're upside down. Well, they spent their equity. But there's so many people that I meet every single day who did the right thing. They were pursuing the American dream. They saved their money. They even put some down, bought a home, invested in it.
That's the key, though, Beth. That's the key. They put money down. All these ridiculous loans. I remember I used to do a radio talk show that you were aware of. You were on a bunch of times in Front Royal, and one of I had some woman on from Winchester area. She was a realtor or a mortgage broker or something, and she was pushing these. I guess the subprime mortgages because they were making so much money off them. It used to be that the local bank would loan the money for the house, and you would put 20 points down or something. You'd have a vested interest in it. You were much less likely to walk away from that. But
exactly.
Then they figured all the whole derivative system where your local bank would do a mortgage, they would sell it to somebody else, they would send it to somebody else. Then the big companies would package them up and sell them to investors, and then they'd pay the ratings companies. The ratings companies would rate them very highly. And so it became all of a sudden, whereas it used to be a local bank, which of course the people holding the money your deposit money, we're not allowed to be in the investment banking business. But then that wall disappeared, and so all of a sudden, when that changed, there was no incentive to keep the house if you don't have any money in it. If you bought a house in '05 with no money down or interest only, whatever, and then all of a sudden the property drops, and then your balloon comes in, it's literally impossible for you. And you're a cocktail waitress who said you make $200,000 a year on paper, but really you're bringing home 30. And I know you saw this happen. Maybe you weren't signing these things yourselves or pursuing, but I know you saw this happen to your friends.
And I am seeing the consequences. But I will also tell you that, for example, I had a closing yesterday. Hardworking man and his family. He put 20% down on his home in 2006. 20% down. We had to do a short sale. And even with the 20% down, he had paid $300,000, put 20% down. I short sold his home for $152,000. So it's all over the place. Yes, there are those situations where the people just didn't have any money down and felt. But the horrible market and the horrible reality is even people that put their money down are still having to short sale. It's just amazing. I firmly believe that if the bank started working with these people, like this gentleman, for example, yesterday, closed for $152. He owed probably, $250 on the property. If the bank had worked with him and said, okay, we know you're struggling, you're having a hard time, let's reduce your mortgage balance to $200,000. We'll give you a lower interest rate. That way you can afford the payments and stay in the home. That bank would have been so much better off, as well as the economy, as well as the housing comparables, that now I have a $152,000 sale on the book, and they would have made $50,000 more, or more than that when you pay real estate commission. So the banks should be working with these homeowners that want to stay on board, that can financially afford to try to keep their homes, or else we're going to keep getting more short sales and more foreclosures, and the market isn't going to recover. Another thing is that there's no consistency in the short sale process. Say you have a loan through Bank of America. That process is completely different, and there's no set timeline that's similar to Wells Fargo. And there's not a set timeline. I had 2 short sales that were approved last week, took 2 months. I've had other short sales that have taken 3 and 4 to even get looked at by the bank and approved or denied. So it's just a mess. It really is a mess. And this sign and this increased activity and the buyers out there is such a great sign, but I still think that until these short sales become more prevalent and less fraught with difficulty and delays, and banks that are just evil and unwilling to work with homeowners and sellers,
evil,
then we have a long way to go. I call them evil, yes.
So you play the good cop, bad cop.
If I told you some horror stories, I could tell you some horror stories about short sales I've tried to get through where the banks are just absolutely unwilling to work with my clients. I've actually resorted to, and almost on every short sale that I work with, my buyers or my sellers and buyers both contact Congressman Frank Wolf's office for intervention. It sounds ridiculous. What's that going to do? Frank Wolf writing a letter, that's our local congressman, to the bank. But that actually does help because they know somebody's watching. These banks know, okay, somebody's going to hold me accountable perhaps. Let me respond and not just put this stack of paper of the short sale file on the stack of the hundreds of others that these case managers have. So I've been able to maintain my sales and that sort, and I refuse to list a bank-owned property. I do not work with these banks. I'm just so distraught over what's happened. I know there's some good people that work for banks, but I'm not going to be one to list the foreclosures. Now, I'll sell a buyer a good deal on a foreclosure and try to get the bank to give it away for a good deal, but I will not list a foreclosure home because I just am so frustrated because I know that in that home that's listed as a foreclosure now on the market, there was a homeowner who probably would have stayed there had the bank worked with them. Now, there are situations where the people, like you said, they were nuts. They lied and they said the waitress that made $200,000 that really made 10. Those people, should be held accountable. But it's what makes me sad every day is the people that didn't skimp the system, that got in over their heads, that were tricked into these loans that seemed so perfect, and now they're stuck. Pretty much.
Some were tricked. Some were greedy. There was greed on both sides in some of those loans.
That is true. Very true.
Emily, you are Emily Williams. You are currently in the market for a rental property. And how have you found that market? Because I know that market is especially booming right now for the companies who own the rental properties. What have you found?
Well, in Lynchburg, I think it might be a very specific case because we have a large amount of colleges. And based on the time that I'm looking, I have a lot of competition when it comes to finding a house to rent. You'll see houses that go up, listings go up, and I'll go to look at them, and there'll be 3 or 4 people waiting for the keys. And I think that Lynchburg is probably different, and I know most college towns are, and it is the summer, so this is the time that students are looking. So I really can't speak towards rental properties in the rest of the nation, I guess.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Well, we've got Beth for about 10 more minutes, I think, and then she has to roll out. So I'm going to switch some story orders here because I know Beth is a sort of a social media guru. I know she uses Facebook and the Twitter. So I want to talk about a couple stories here that I think she might be able to chime in on. One is Myspace, which I have an account on, and I got bombarded with spam toward the end. I don't really use it, but it's apparently finally been sold. This is ad targeting firm Specific Media. The Wall Street Journal was the first to report today. Specific Media has agreed to buy News Corporation's struggling social media site MySpace, which was huge, and then Facebook just blew it off the map. The deal was announced values MySpace between $30 million and $40 million, well below the $100 million that News Corporation was seeking for the site. The deal involves considerably more equity for News Corporation than cash. According to a person familiar with the matter, News Corp will retain a small stake in the site. The people who were familiar with the matter said that News Corporation, which owns Fox News Channel and a bunch of newspapers, a bunch of media properties, they paid $580 million for MySpace in 2005. So, Beth, first, what do you think? Did you ever use MySpace, or did your kids, or what?
Did you have any experience? I hope my 5 and 7-year-old had a MySpace account. Somebody's in trouble.
I think they did have a mortgage, though. I think they got a mortgage in 06.
I think they might have. That's why they can't sleep by themselves at night. They're terrified of the mortgage lender coming to knock on our door. I actually never had a MySpace account, and I'm so busy with everything. I don't get on Facebook as much as I should, but it's amazing what you can do with social media, and it's amazing to me that the Facebook, how it just took over. It's funny, you use it for, saying, hey, what's a good movie or what have you. I had some friends that her daughter had some surgery. I couldn't reach her. I didn't know what happened. I was able to find her mother on Facebook and saw a posting from a friend of her mother who's not my friend, who said, I'm glad the surgery went well. So I could sleep at night. So it's just really amazing how social media can just affect every realm of your life, from business to personal to entertainment to, spreading the word about things you would rather not talk about.
Emily, what do you think? Were you ever a MySpace kid?
No, but I followed MySpace's, transition, I guess, from when you look back at the beginning of social media, there were companies like MySpace, and LiveJournal was another one that got in on the ground floor that really aren't around in the same way that they used to be. MySpace did a great job of transitioning from being an all-encompassing social media, kind of like Facebook, to really focusing its energies on musicians and attracting small groups that wanted to set up independent sites through them, which I think is probably the only reason it's still around and the only reason it's being sold for any money at all. Something else interesting that I found is that one of the investors that in the MySpace buy is Justin Timberlake, which, when you think about it from the music side, makes total sense. So I think that, it was a smart move that they tried to find a niche market in the same way that LiveJournal is actually owned by the Russians now, and it's really big in Russia. But
I think Orkut, Google's social, isn't Orkut owned by Google? Maybe I'm wrong. I keep making these mistakes. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think Orkut's big in Brazil in some places. They're all over, and now Google Buzz has started. But yeah, I think it's kind of sad to see that they shut down. They just weren't able to fix it. I think they should have gotten rid of the spammers, gotten rid of all the the constant stream of people you've never heard of or anything like that. But anyway, so be it. They're done, and they got, I don't know, 5-10 cents on the dollar. Okay, another thing. Now I know Emily is not a Twitter user. Are you on Twitter, Beth? Do you use Twitter at all?
I actually am not. I got one of those Twitter for Dummies little books, and I have it beside my bed, and I just haven't had a chance to look through it. I just haven't gotten into it, and my main reason is I cannot keep it short. I just cannot, and I know it would drive me crazy with the character limit that Twitter requires. I had to get this SMS crunch on my BlackBerry so that I didn't have to send 10 texts at a time so that I could send a long text. I just cannot be brief, and that's what scares me about Twitter.
That's funny because Brett Herbeck was on. I think he uses Twitter, and I figure if he can do it, because you two, I'd love to have you two on together. I could just go get a cup of coffee and let you two go at it. Okay, well this is really neat. This is from the New York Times. Imagine a world in which we are assigned a number that indicates how influential we are. This number would help determine whether you receive a job, a hotel room, upgrade, or free samples at the supermarket. If your influence score is low, you don't get the promotion, the suite, or the complimentary cookies. Well, this isn't science fiction. It's happening to millions of social network users. If you have Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn account, you are already being judged or soon will be. Companies with names like Clout, Peer Index, and Twitter Grader are in the process of scoring millions, eventually billions of people on their level of influence, or in their lingo, rating influencers. Yet the companies are not simply looking at the number of followers or friends you've amassed. Rather, they are beginning to measure influence in more nuanced ways and posting their judgments in the form of a score online. Beth, can you imagine being judged? I mean, at a hotel or car rental, you have 28,000 followers on Twitter. Take the Lamborghini for a spin. Can you imagine?
I'm going to have to spend a lot more time on my social media networking. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And I guess, how do they it seems like it would be a ever fluctuating number. Like, one day I might have more friends than you, but the next day you might have more. So how can there be a concrete number? I guess maybe every day your number posts. You wake up in the morning, where am I? Where am I on the numbers?
I think I'm on Twitter, but I follow like 4, 5, 6, 7, I forget, under 10, I think. And I have like 100, I don't know, 100 and something, maybe, I forget. But it stays pretty constant. It grows, and you get folks you actually know, or folks who are interested in, you, if they know you. And it kind of stays pretty. I don't think it fluctuates that much. I know Facebook friends, you just tends to grow. I don't know if people would typically, cull the herd, so to speak. What do you think, Emily? Do you think that this is a good thing?
Well, I actually used to work as a social media expert of sorts for a online photography company. And we followed sites like that to see how we were gaining momentum, because the company was trying to put up a site that would be kind of a challenge to Flickr. And it was infuriating to watch day to day, to see like where our influence was, and to really tune into it. And it's I think that I'm worried that a lot of these social media sites, in the capacity that they are now, is really a fad that is going to fade out eventually. And I think that one thing that points me in that direction, and speaking, I'm 24, so I've been out of college for a bit now, and I was in college when Facebook first started, and I'd say maybe 10% of my friends from college and high school are still active on Facebook. So, and I see that Facebook is becoming a tool for older people more than older people and very young people. So if my generation specifically is any tell of where that sort of traditional social media is going, I think that we're going to see changes coming. Okay.
Let me get one more story. I think Beth, are you cool for about 5 more minutes?
Sure.
Okay. Let me get to this newspaper story, just because this is fascinating, and obviously, well, it's fascinating to me because I'm a newspaper publisher. But this is from originally I saw it from Post and Parcel. I think The Swiss Post is expanding its retail portfolio by pushing ahead with plans to launch a personalized daily newspaper for Swiss readers at the end of November. It's called My Newspaper. The it's not up yet. It enables readers to compile a personalized daily newspaper based on around 30 publications. Subscribers select the content that they want on the My Newspaper internet platform, for example, by area of interest, such as local news, economy, culture, sports, before Swiss Post prints and delivers the product to you. As part of the one-year pilot, My Newspaper will also be available in an online format in Germany. The Swiss Post International said this means that readers can combine information from different publishers depending on what they're interested in and their reading habits. They confirm that readers can determine the number of pages with 24, 36, or 64 page options available. It'll be digitally printed at Swiss Post Solutions in Switzerland before being delivered by Swiss Post across several regions of Switzerland. And the online versions will be available worldwide, with the publication sent by email in the format of a PDF, e-paper file. Versions are available for tablet PCs such as iPad and other e-readers. They have yet to set a final subscription price, but they expect around 1,000 readers to subscribe to the print edition during the pilot phase. Beth, this is interesting. Can you imagine, saying, I don't want any of, I don't want obituaries, they're depressing, but I want lots of hockey coverage or whatever you are into, whatever you want. Obviously, you'd want an expanded real estate section, I would guess, and actually have it delivered to you. It's got to be incredibly expensive. Would this interest you?
I know. I can't even imagine how that's possible to combine and to actually do the printing. Now, the online version I can see, just they pile up all the information, and, you can kind of customize your homepage, et cetera. But, gosh, that's just amazing to think about what must be involved in custom printing. I mean, you're a printer, for heaven's sake. I mean, how do you affordably print a custom newspaper for 1,000 people?
Oh, I can't imagine. We send it, our papers.
A different version.
Yeah, our papers are, I published 3 papers, and it's close to 6 figures in printing, but we send it, and there's a crew of like six guys on the press, and then it goes to the mail room where they bundle it and do inserts, and then it's delivered, and then there's anywhere from 1 or 2 people up to about 6 people who deliver each paper. So it's a tremendous cost. Mailing it is more expensive. You can, I don't know how they're going to print it. The cheapest way to print is a web offset press. You can print like a 16-page newspaper, tabloid size, for less than 10 cents, the whole thing. You can't even print a single inkjet. This will shock you. If you actually look at the cost, that inkjet printer, the reason they're so cheap is because they make so much money on the ink. Professional printer's ink is like $30, $50, $60 a gallon. The inkjet printer, do the math. It'll say 0.0 whatever milliliters. Do the math.
Right.
You are literally paying $10,000 a gallon for that inkjet ink compared to $30 a gallon. If you take, I'm serious, anybody listening or watching, go get your package, and somewhere real small, smaller than a cigarette warning label, they'll have the milliliters of ink. And do the math. Convert, use Google or whatever, use the Google, and figure out it's about $10,000 a gallon is what you're paying for that inkjet ink. So there are cheaper ways to do it. I mean, obviously they're going to have a industrial sized press, or probably that Xerox thing that Mike McCool has. That's big money. And then there's another thing that uses a pigment instead of ink, and it's a little cheaper, half a cent a page, but still it's nothing like web offset. But you can individualize it, and I can get that thing to Beth Waller that has the big real estate section and stuff to do with your 5 and 7-year-old, and places to go on the weekends with your husband, and that sort of thing that is personalized just for you, just things that you want that someone else may not be interested in. So But hey, Beth, I really want to thank you for participating in the show tonight. If you want to find her, it's Beth Waller, Beth Waller, and you can simply Google Beth Waller Real Estate, and you'll find her. She's in Warren County, and she has my endorsement. She's a great lady, and she can fill a break.
Thank you. Just tell me, shut up.
No, you're great.
No, it's been a pleasure, and thank you so much. This was fun. I hope to do it again.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Beth. I appreciate it. All right.
Thanks.
So that is
Have a good night.
Thanks. That's Beth Waller, and we thank her for joining us tonight from Front Royal, Virginia. So now let's go back to Emily, and this is, I got a couple stories. I moved some stories around because Beth was joining us, but this is interesting. The kind of the top story, federal appeals court in Cincinnati has upheld the Obama health care law, specifically one of the most controversial elements of the law, and that is the requirement that you get insurance. The Associated Press has a story. They're all over the place. In the first ruling by a federal appeals court on President Obama's health care overhaul, the panel affirmed that Congress can require Americans to have minimum insurance coverage. A conservative law center, the Thomas More Law Center, based in Ann Arbor, Michigan, had challenged the measure, arguing on behalf of plaintiffs who said that potentially being required to buy insurance or face penalties was subjecting them to financial hardship. They warned that the law was too broad and could lead to more federal mandates. The government countered that the measure was needed for the overall goal of reducing health care costs and reforms, such as protecting people with pre-existing conditions. It said that the coverage mandate will help keep the costs of changes from being shifted to households and providers. What are your thoughts on this, Emily? And give me 2 minutes on this.
All right. Well, I think probably the most interesting part of this decision is one of the judges that decided to join the majority opinion, namely Judge Jeffrey Sutton, who was actually appointed by President George W. Bush. So that was a big surprise for everyone. Sutton worked as a law clerk under Scalia, who we earlier this week reviewed a decision about video games that Scalia made, where he sided on the side of the First Amendment, and we were kind of surprised by that. So it's always good to see judges making decisions that are outside of their traditional conservative liberal frameworks. But we'll see if this decision has any influence. In the long run, I think that it's good that the decision was made specifically on the individual mandate, because I think that that's the biggest problem or the biggest issue here. And I also think that it's important that when Sutton agreed with the decision, he agreed specifically along the lines that that Obama's people were arguing.
I think yeah. The mandate was originally a Republican proposal. I think the Heritage Foundation supported it originally, and then I guess it's kind of the thing that they can attack, that they think has the most legs and a challenge. But really, the whole thing is, if they're going to provide, if they're going to say that you can't deny somebody coverage because of pre-existing conditions, you've got to have a mandatory provision in there, or the two are required. If you have one, you got to have the other, because otherwise, it's just like a car accident. If you get in a car accident, you can't call Allstate and say, hey, I'd like to get insurance as of 10 minutes ago to fix my car. You have to have insurance before, or you're out of luck. And it's the same thing here. Why would anyone have health insurance? They would just wait until you get diagnosed with and need chemo or whatever, and you make the call and get health insurance. They have to cover you, and then as soon as you've gone through the process, you're cured or whatever, then you can dump the insurance again. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's that story. We'll see. And then, of course, another one, we're going to try to have him on the show tonight, but he had another commitment. The Liberty University case, Dean Staver, who's the dean of the Liberty School of Law and Liberty Counsel, which is a conservative legal outfit. I'm going to try to get him on to talk about his case. He argued before the the Court of Appeals in Richmond, their case, Liberty University, which is it's a slightly different case, but I think it does talk about the provision for mandatory coverage. Okay, this is really interesting to me. This next story, and this is I guess it's a First Amendment case. Really, there was a great op-ed I'm going to look to here in the Washington Post by George Will, who's someone I've been watching since he was on Brinkley. The fate of Arizona's Clean Elections Act, which the Supreme Court declared unconstitutional Monday, was foreshadowed March 28th during oral arguments. Lawyers defending the law insisted its purpose was to combat corruption or the appearance thereof. The court has repeatedly said this is the only constitutionally permissible reason for restricting the quantity of political speech. The law's defenders insisted that its purpose was not to level the playing field by equalizing candidates' resources, which the court has declared an unconstitutional reason for regulating speech. But Chief Justice John Roberts replied, well, I checked the Citizens Clean Elections Commission website this morning, and it says that this act was passed to level the playing field when it comes to running for office. Game over, says Will. And the thing, I think, when Arizona Democrat Janet, what this law did was, if you were a clean candidate, I'm using the word because that's the law, and you didn't, that you would get public financing. If your opponent elected for private financing, because it's definitely unconstitutional to force someone to not accept contributions. But if, let's say I'm running against Emily, and Emily is just not going to take the public financing, she's just going to go have fundraisers, and I'm taking the public financing, and I've raised $500,000, and she's raised $500,000, and then all of a sudden, President Obama or former President Bush or someone comes in and does a fundraiser for her, and they raise $750,000, then I would get a matching $750,000 from the state of Arizona. And Janet Napolitano, who's now Secretary of Homeland Security, was running for governor. She joked that President George W. Bush, in effect, held a fundraiser for her. When he spoke at a fundraiser for her privately funded opponent, she received $750,000 in matching funds. So what do you I think both sides get money. I mean, on the right, big corporations give money, and the Chamber of Commerce attacks the Democrats and supports the Republicans. On the left, the best example is Scott Walker in Wisconsin, who passed a bill, and the teachers unions were chaining themselves to the court, to the state house, and basically he was trying to end the money laundering of campaign money, where the state legislators would pass laws that would allow a union to get voted in, and then say if 51% of the people vote for the union, then everybody in the union, everyone who wants to be a teacher, for example, has to join the union, or you can't teach in a public school. And then the dues are deducted automatically, and then they're donated, I think, 90% to Democrats. Even though of union members, it's pretty 50-50, Republican-Democrat, or 40-40, whatever. It's not tilted that way, but the leadership of the unions donates to the Democrats like 9-1. And so, I mean, money does affect, but that's the system we have. It's not great. Maybe it's lousy, but it's the least lousy of all the systems in the world, in my opinion. But I do think this is, perhaps well-intentioned by the people who did it, but this is a clear First Amendment issue. What say you, Emily?
Well, it's not surprising. Earlier, I'm not even sure if it was this year or last year, the Supreme Court sided on the side of large businesses contributing to campaigns, saying that it was a matter of free speech, that they be able to give money to candidates. So, yeah, I'm not sure more to say about this without going into a rant on how I feel about campaign
Go into a rant.
No,
you can rant. I've been ranting all week. I've been ranting all week.
I would like to say that lobbyists already hold a lot of power in Washington, and decisions that encourage private funding of candidates only give them more power. So I understand this one's a little bit more complicated because there was, a lot of public funds involved, and it does seem like it leans heavily on the side of trying to make it fair for everyone who's running money-wise. And we've seen elections as of late where candidates have had oodles and oodles of money and not been able to buy a win for themselves. So, I mean, it's obvious that the level playing field doesn't need to happen, and it has been ruled unconstitutional. So Not a surprising decision.
A little unconstitutional?
Yeah.
How far along is she?
I hope that decisions like this won't affect people who are trying to work for election reform in the future. I think that this could be seen as another negative decision on behalf of the Supreme Court and them not supporting election reform. And I think that clean elections are important, and I think everyone on both sides would agree with that. So fingers crossed that there are ambitious young politicians out there that are still willing to air their dirty laundry.
All right. And I enjoyed your rant, although my rants were more animated, perhaps. I even ranted over $1.50 that Netflix got me for, fair and square. All right, I've got two fun stories. Do you have any serious stories before we do these two fun stories?
Well, I did want to weigh in on the whole pick and choose Swedish newspaper thing. I'm surprised you didn't ask me about it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I apologize. I knew she Beth had told me she had to leave at 8:30, and I got a rare distracted Dan moment, so I apologize. Yeah, what do you think about a personalized newspaper?
If I can, I'll just switch gears real quick. This is actually a concept, or the idea is something that we heard rumors about back when I was in grad school. 2 years ago. And it really falls under the category of just brainstorming ways to monetize news content. And I think that the concept of letting people pick and choose what kind of news stories they want to read is an excellent one. It really takes newspapers a step towards the iTunes kind of setup, where you're paying for only what you want. So say you wanted to make a sad playlist on iTunes and you'd only pick the slow songs. This would be the same deal. You want a newspaper that's really only hard news, you could pick just news, or only celebrity gossip, you could pick just that. I'm amazed that they've found a way to make it to cost-efficiently print and deliver the editions to people, though I am suspicious that these editions are going to be very delayed time-wise, that you're going to be getting news that's 3 or 4 days old.
Well, I'll tell you how they could do it. I don't want to get too wonkish here. I can tell you exactly how they could do it. What they would do, they'd have a template, and they would. I'm thinking software-wise, you'd have the address, and you'd have it's during the pilot phase. They can do 1,000 easy, right? The scalability is the issue. How do you do 800,000? But and there's a question of how many people want this printed. I mean, I guess like a rich guy, someone who has maybe Prince Charles, who has, I think last night we discussed 160 or 130 staff. If you can afford someone to put toothpaste on your toothbrush, then this is something good. But I'm a print fan. I own newspapers, and you work with me, and you used to work in Boston and for a New York Times company. So I think I think good for them. If they can make this work, it'll be copied everywhere. And some of the printing technology is terrific. Like Mike McCool at National Media Services, they're in Front Royal, and they've got this. It's called an Indigo press, and there's no plate required. It's pretty inexpensive per copy, but it's amazing quality. He's a really good guy, and he said, we wanted posters done. He said they don't care if it's 50 with all different things or 50 of the same thing. It doesn't matter because it's all digital. It just, you go from the file to the final product. There's no plate made. Whereas when we print our papers, it's a web offset press. It's the size of a city block, and you have to make these giant plates, and then it's like these giant rolls of toilet paper, go through, and then it slices them, and it comes out at 80 miles an hour. It's amazing to watch. But that is the cheapest way if you're doing a large quantity. And we have ours range from I think 5,000 to 16,000 every issue. So then it's cheaper. But I say good for them. If the Swiss can do that, then they'll have something besides chocolate and attractive citizens.
That's right.
Now I've offended the Swiss. Okay. All right, I have this is neat. I got a nice graphic here. This is Lady Gaga. She denies scamming people. There was a story yesterday we didn't hit on I think I just didn't have it ready. Not that it's beneath me by any stretch. This is a Reuters story here. Representatives of Lady Gaga on Tuesday denied claims of a scam over sales of the singer's wristbands for Japan's earthquake relief efforts. They described a lawsuit targeting the pop star and other companies involved in the sale and marketing of the $5 white and red We Pray for Japan rubber bracelets as misguided and without merit. They said it takes attention away from the kind deeds the fans around the world who are supporting the people of Japan, blah, blah, blah. This is great. The law firm, the name of the law firm is 1-800-LAW FIRM. That's the name of the law firm. So the Michigan Legal Network 1-800-LAW FIRM filed a lawsuit alleging that not all of the proceeds from the wristband sales were going to help victims of the March earthquake and tsunami, as Lady Gaga had pledged on her website. The federal class action also claimed that shipping costs were inflated. Well, what this was about is when you'd go to the website to buy, I guess the $5 bracelet, it charged sales tax, and their contention was that if it's a donation, there wouldn't be sales tax on it. So something was up. I guess Lady Gaga is insulated to the degree where you can't call a rep and ask a question, or they don't return the call, because this obviously could have been easily avoided with some communication before the fact, unless this outfit is simply trying to get publicity. Of course, I can't imagine a law firm would ever do something like that, especially one called 1-800-LAW FIRM. So they said that the entire $5 donation made with the purchase of each bracelet is going to support the disaster relief. No profit is being made on the shipping costs. Sales tax charges were made in accordance with local legal requirements. Lady Gaga has personally pledged her own funds to this cause and continues to support the victims of the disaster. Do you want to weigh in on this? Do you have a Lady Gaga $5 bracelet, Emily?
I don't, but I actually just hopped on over to 1-800-LawFirm.com, and they do have a website. They're not just a phone number. And they tout themselves as being America's most trusted legal network. And they have this great video on their website. If anyone's listening, hop over there. David Darby, their legal investigator, who has this, Jack Sparrow-esque mustache going on, and they're really out to get her. I think that, like you said, this is definitely just a miscommunication. I can't imagine that Gaga is trying to rip off.
If she's not lying. If her reps are telling the truth, right, and this wasn't a scam, mm-hmm. and she's making money hand over fist, I can't imagine her scamming on something like this when so many people are paying attention to her. I mean, she's been on 60 Minutes twice. But if it tells me that I would from 10,000 feet in the air, I would question the research branch of this 1-800-LAW FIRM and whether they did their homework. But we'll see. I mean, maybe they're going to stick to their guns, stick to their bracelets, and hash this out in court with a class action of a bunch of people who will get their sales tax refunded, perhaps. I'm not sure. But I know that when you buy Newman's Own, to do an analogy, I love their Italian salad dressing and their other products. When you buy Newman's Own at the local Food Lion or Kroger or Martin's, then you have to pay sales tax on it, and it says all proceeds after taxes go to charity. It was set up by Paul Newman, and it continues since he's deceased, and you pay sales tax on your Newman's Own salad dressing. I don't see why, I'm guessing this is something that she threw together real quick to help them and to get publicity, I guess. But certainly, I don't know. It seems to me like this is a nonsense case, but that's my layman's opinion. I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah. Hopefully 1-800-LAW FIRM is not, obviously they're using money they've gotten from somewhere, and just fingers crossed it's not from scamming people on their website. That's the only place I can imagine that they get their money, but who knows?
All right. Next, turtles. Okay, this is great. This is a great story. Turtles seeking to lay their eggs caused delays at New York's John F. Kennedy Airport this morning. We may have a few delays, but nothing significant, FAA's spokeswoman told the New York Post. The news broke as JetBlue apologized to customers via Twitter. And if you're looking at the video, which is broadcast live on McDermottReport.com, or it's also you can go there and you can find this episode. This is episode number 9. This is the tweet. JFK is experiencing delays as the airport clears turtles off the runway, and it's hashtag can't make this up. Check flight status at JetBlue.com. Then there was another. I guess someone asked them what kind of turtles these are, and they replied back to Brian Yarvual that they were diamondback terrapins. Though there are rumors some of the turtles are of the ninja subspecies. And then, of course, as you would expect, remember the Bronx Zoo's cobra? There was immediately a Twitter account formed in the name of the JFK turtles. One of the first tweets. Now, why did the turtle cross the runway? To get to the Shell station. I don't have any sound effects for like, I think Anderson Cooper or something like that. But I think I wonder if they hurt the turtles. I guess they're not protected species, right? You don't care about this story at all.
Sure. I love turtles.
Are you a turtle fan?
I love turtles, and I am. I don't know why.
Your dog would have had a ball. Your dog would have had a ball.
Oh, yeah.
If he was out there.
She would have loved it. She would have gotten them right off that runway. All 150 of them, one by one.
This is great.
I think it's too bad for JetBlue that it's them that is affected, because they've had trouble with delays and stuff all over the place. So, yeah. But no, congrats for stopping for the turtles. That was very nice of them.
Those poor flight attendants now, and the ticket counter folks, the flight's been delayed. Oh, is it turtles? I've heard that one before. Yeah, they said at 9:45 a.m. the airlines were diverted to another runway. Port Authority workers removed the 100 diamondback terrapins from runway 41. It's a yearly event for the turtles who, during spawning season, look for a sandy place to lay their eggs. The sandy spot on the other side of runway 41 is ideal for egg laying. PA spokesman John Kelly told the Post it's naturally provided turtle maternity ward. When your airport is virtually surrounded by water, your neighbors sometimes come in the hard shell variety. Good thing they weren't in a French airport. Little butter, little bit of butter. Emily, hey, thanks. This is great. We always love having you on. You were going to go on Skype, but then you were delayed or whatever and couldn't. So you're here via telephone, your cell phone, which sounds like an airport in the back.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I think I can hear stuff in here that doesn't.
So.
I'm sorry, I stepped on you. Go ahead.
Oh, it's all right. No, it's the cell reception at my apartment, and fingers crossed we'll be moving pretty soon. So hopefully all of the quality issues will be solved, and hopefully we'll be able to get my Skype from home working audio-wise so that I can chime in that way.
Awesome. All right, well, I want to thank folks for listening and watching, and we are here. I'm here usually with Emily or with someone just about every night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. If you'd like to watch it, it's on Ustream, and the video and the audio, and then the audio is on Blog Talk Radio. Great website, blogtalkradio.com. If you'd like to get links to either stream or to watch previous episodes if you miss one, if you want to share it or watch it again, you can do that at McDermottReport.com, and that is right on the screen at the bottom, McDermottReport.com. So again, Emily, thanks so much. And folks, we want to say we really appreciate you hanging out with us. It's been a blast, and I will catch you tomorrow night.